Hey everyone, welcome to Craving Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Now in this video, I'm going to discuss 4 theories about how Stu Macher could return in Scream 7. I'll explore each theory and share my thoughts on them, including which of the 4 possibilities that Stu could return is my personal favorite. So, get ready to start hearing the Stu train coming down the tracks, because it's time to dive in to 4 possible ways that Stu Macher might return in Scream 7. Let's go!
Hi, I'm John Copeman, and I was stunt coordinator on Scream 5. You're watching Craving Something Scary.
So Screen Rant recently published an article discussing 8 possible ways that Stu Macher could return in Scream 7. And I'm going to share my thoughts on 4 of them on this video. You can definitely read the full article on ScreenRant.com. I've actually put the link to the article in the description below if you want to read it after the video. Alright guys, some of these theories you might be familiar to you, because you've heard me talk about them on live streams and other videos. But this is a video that's going to put them all in one place for you. So let's get started with the first theory of how Stu could return. Number 1, Stu will be seen in a flashback scene or several flashback scenes. Alright, now when we're talking about flashback scenes, I'm very excited at the potential of this because of 2 things. Number 1, we could potentially get the flashback scene that takes us back to when it all started, the very beginning, the Maureen Prescott murder. And I'm very excited. I've talked about this before. I'd love to see a prequel, and even if not a full movie, a prequel flashback like this, where we go back to that very first time and we see Cotton leaving the house. We see discussions with Roman and Billy and Stu and all of this coming together. And then we see what happened to start it all. That would be a great flashback scene, in my opinion. And I hope we get it, but I don't know. That's why it's a theory. Now, the next thing about a flashback scene that I like is because it could also potentially take us back to the Scream 3 timeline. And by taking us back to the Scream 3 timeline, we may see some new information we did not know before. And that's what I always say when it comes to flashbacks. I want to not just see a flashback scene, but I want to learn new information, something we did not know prior to now. So, for example, we know Roman's going to be in the film. So in the Scream 3 timeline, what if we go back to seeing behind the scenes, and Roman had an accomplice, and I firmly believe he had an accomplice. I think the movie itself, if you really watch it, the clues are all there, Wes put in there, and it's very clear there's 2 people. So what if we find out one of 2 things? Number 1, what if we find out that Roman's accomplice was, in fact, Angelina, which is what I've been talking about for years now. I still, right now, to this day, believe Angelina is the second killer in Scream 3 that just was not revealed. And so I believe that 100%. However, what could change that is if we go back to this timeline and we have a flashback showing that Stu Macher was Roman's accomplice in Scream 3, and that they were working together since the first film, since the events of Maureen's death, and of course the events of Scream 96. So maybe we see here that it is not Angelina, but it's actually Stu as the second killer in Scream 3. And again, they already had a relationship, And so we could just see this continuing and finding out that Stu was involved in these murders as well, not just in the first film. That would be an amazing flashback scene, and one that in my mind, I'm telling myself it's probably not going to happen, but in my heart, I really do want to see it. And hey, no one can say that it's impossible, because right now anything is impossible as long as it's well, I should say it like this: anything is possible as long as it's plausible. So anyway, that's what I'm hoping to see when it comes to flashbacks. Now let's move on to the second theory of how Stu Macher could return in Scream 7, and that is AI will be used to make it appear Stu is alive. Now, AI is a very controversial and very current issue in our time right now, as you know. And there are strong opinions on both sides of it, honestly. And I'm going to discuss just a couple of ways that AI could be used regarding Stu in Scream 7. The first way is that AI could be used in the form of a FaceTime or Skype live interaction phone call. So imagine, because remember, a phone is a big deal for Scream. I don't believe that's ever going to go away. And the typical way Ghostface communicates with his victims is through the phone call. But what if Ghostface still uses the phone, but in addition to receiving a phone call here and now, as we love with Robert L. Jackson's voice, we also see our potential victims receive a FaceTime or Skype call as well. So could you imagine Sydney gets a FaceTime call, she answers it, and there's Stu Macher on the other end talking to her. And she's like, this can't be, this can't be. And because I thought you were dead, and most people do think he's dead, which is going to be the shock because he's really not. He's really alive. But they could use it in the movie with AI to do this in that kind of communication, using the phone, but using it in a new way, in a different way, and in a way that's very relevant to the times. And also, AI could be used in the form of a video clip. Think back to how the use of videos has been really featured in the franchise thus far. We got Gail's camera and recording back in Scream 1. We've got Scream 2. Mickey's using a video camera, remember? Always filming things. In Scream 3, we've got Randy's video from the past that we all remember and love. And plus, Scream 4 had Gail's cameras in the killers, in the mask. They were recording. Jill and Charlie were recording their murders to put out. So, and of course, Scream 5 and 6 had the use of cameras or videos in one way or form, or one way or another. But having AI, a video clip of Stu or Roman is, and in this case, Stu, especially, is another way he could come back. And they could choose to just use AI, just use a flashback scene, or they could choose to use both of them. And that's what I hope. I hope we get a complete round the gambit use of technology. So those are my thoughts on this, on how it could be done with flashbacks and AI, of how Stu could come back. All right, let's keep going. Theory number 3 of how Stu could return is that Stu is alive and leading kills from a prison or psychiatric facility. And this theory, of course, recycles the Scream 3 plot that had to be scrapped. And it's a variation of that. You could update it. And this is a definite possibility. It's not uncommon that serial killers will attract followers and actual fans. Believe it or not, that's true. Sometimes people are so obsessed with serial killers that are incarcerated in prison or psychiatric facilities that they'll even want to marry them while they're still incarcerated. It happens. And so the idea of Stu having a cult of fans or followers or cult of Ghostface, if you will, is totally plausible. And just like the idea for Scream 3, Stu could be controlling this group of people in a very cult-like manner where he leads them, tells them who to kill, and when and where to do it. Now, while he may not physically be there in the costume, he could easily be controlling them to carry out the murders and thus be the mastermind for the Scream 7 kills. That's definitely possible. Now, there is a challenge with this theory, and one of the challenges is that, hey, if this is true, everyone would know he's alive. So why has he not been mentioned in the sequels by anybody? And listen, here's my quick answer to that. There's no reason to mention Stu or investigate because he was in prison, because he was locked up in a facility or prison. That's the very reason you don't hear about him in the sequels as a suspect, because everyone involved, Dewey, everyone would know he was locked up for life in prison or in a state psychiatric institution. There's no reason to suspect Stu Macher to be involved with any of the attacks or murders because he's locked away. It's a done deal in their minds. And if he had broken out of prison or a facility, or he was released early even on good behavior, if those happened, Dewey would definitely know about it, and we would have seen Dewey in the sequels saying, we got to look out for Stu Macher. Where's Stu Macher? That never happened. Therefore, their belief that Stu is dead remains intact, or that he's incarcerated, still intact. Both of those apply. All right, guys, theory number 4. Stu is alive, and he's been hidden by his family or by Roman. So, guys, I've mentioned this a bunch on my channel. But we know from Scream, in the house he was in, scenery, the boat in the driveway, we know Stu's parents were wealthy, and I think possibly could even have had political influence. We don't know anything about the parents, so it's impossible to say no or yes. All I can say is it's a possibility. And remember, if that, Sheriff Burke's position is voted by public election, those are elections that vote sheriffs into office. And Stu's parents could have heavily funded Sheriff Burke's campaign to get elected or re-elected, whichever the case it is, and essentially in doing that, bought off his help should it be needed. Plus, they already had a likely pre-existing relationship with Sheriff Burke because it's a small town and they're wealthy, and again, if they're involved in local politics or had influence at all with the mayor's office, sheriff's office, it doesn't matter. If they have that significant influence there and they're funding his campaign to get him into office, plus having a pre-existing relationship, and if you add a little bit of corruption into Sheriff Burke, then there's no problem having them do what needs to be done. And they could have easily done that and had everything taken care of with the medical examiner's office. You have him paid off, and that's it. You pay off those people, it's done. Stu is rushed out into hiding, never to be seen again until now. Or the other idea is that Roman took Stu after getting him from the hospital morgue and into hiding. And I've mentioned this before, but it's the same thing. You'll pay off Sheriff Burke, and then he's in cahoots with the medical examiner. So when Stu's body is delivered there to the hospital, it goes down to the morgue, and of course he's alive, and he gets all the medical attention he needs to get sewed up with his stab wounds, any stitching he needs on his face, whatever is needed for Stu to get out of there. He's going to take care of that. Get him out there where at least Roman can take him through the back entrance. It's going to be late at night, or early morning. It doesn't matter when, really. But Roman could be there waiting, and he goes with Roman. Roman takes him to a new place to live with a new identity, completely off the grid, and gets medical attention further there in that town by people who don't know who he is. And so that's as simple as that. It could absolutely have happened that way. So, to wrap things up here shortly, we've explored 4 possible ways that Stu could, plausibly return in Scream 7, at least plausibly. And remember, these are simply theories of what could happen, okay? There's more than these. Again, there's 4 more in the article, and there's a lot more than 8 amongst the Scream fandom. But since we know Matthew Lillard is definitely coming back, now's the time to do these things and think about theories and how it could happen. So now it's time for my personal favorite part of the video, okay? And this is the part where, after sharing all of my thoughts, you get to share yours and your ideas and theories about the ways that Stu could return in Scream 7. And the way for me to know what you're thinking and what theories you have, or as if you share them in the comment section below. Otherwise, I'm not going to know. I'll have no clue what your theories are, and you guys have great ideas and theories. So what are your thoughts and theories of Stu? What's your favorite theory? Feel free to get creative with your ideas. I love reading what's on your mind in the comments. All right, guys, so I'm going to leave it there for now. But I do want to mention, just in case you don't know it by now, my favorite theory, Stu Macher being alive, of course, and in hiding. That's my favorite theory, either Roman or his parents. So if you stayed this long, you got the answer. All right, so that's going to be all for this update. I'll be back soon with more Scream 7 and other horror movie content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Thanks for watching.